it's been a few years, and we had done Seed of Chucky in 2004, and after having done Bride and Seed, David Kirshner and I had, had taken the franchise in a different direction with the comedic bent, and really enjoyed that, but felt we had, sort of tapped out that potential, and it had been a while since we'd done a straightforward horror film with Chucky, and we were just kind of missing that. And this was in 2006, 2007. Suddenly there was this boon in Hollywood to remake classic 80s horror titles. So that was the first thing that we were exploring was doing a remake of the original Child's Play from 1988. But even as I was planning that, it was never my intention to do a scene-by-scene remake, because even we've seen a few of those, and there's just I think the audience responded to them with certain ambivalence because they're just so familiar. So I never wanted to do that. There were just certain things that we knew we wanted to do. We wanted to bring it back to its scary roots. We wanted to have a child protagonist. To sort of bring the doll into the story, and we wanted to have Brad Dourif as Charles Lee Ray physically in the film. So that's something that we were going to do with the remake. But when those attempts became mired in legal red tape, because the original movie the rights are jointly held between Universal and MGM. At the same time, we realized, well, these horror remakes, there's just something a little unsatisfying about them anyway, and we weren't ever going to do the scene-by-scene thing, so we just kind of transmogrified that concept into what has become technically a sequel to all of the movies we've done before, but tonally a reboot, and something that brings us back to the scary tone of the original. Chronologically, it takes place now, but we have flashbacks to 1988. Well, I was a film student at UCLA in the mid-'80s and had been a lifelong horror fan, and I wanted to write something about how marketing affected children. Because my dad worked in marketing and advertising, so as a child I was always exposed to that world, and there's a creepiness about it, especially as pertains the market for children. They refer to children as consumer trainees, which is actually a term I used in Child's Play 3, I think, the Play Pals toy company. So it just seemed, especially in the 80s when Cabbage Patch dolls were all the rage, it just seemed a ripe arena for a dark satire. And I and David Kirshner also, we both love scary movies that involve children. There's just, because horror movies generally just kind of play on childhood fears or primal fears. So anyway, as a film student, I was looking around for an idea that could accommodate this sort of satirical idea, and then I thought, well, dolls. I loved Trilogy of Terror and Magic and various things that I had seen Talking Tina that had used the living doll concept. But I realized that what had never been done before was a film that treated the doll as an actual character, a full-fledged character who had dialogue scenes and a character arc and had to emote and go through changes. That had never been done before, and animatronics had progressed to a point, this is like shortly after Gremlins and things like that. They'd gotten so sophisticated, I realized that you could actually do that with a puppet, that it could emote with great sophistication and enunciate syllables with their mouths. So all of that sort of fed into a funnel, and out came the original script. There are other aspects of childhood and I don't want to say too much, but and people's pasts that we get into. We use Chucky as a slightly different kind of metaphor in this movie. I mean, that's with horror movies, any movie really. I mean, you're always looking for the metaphor. How are you expressing a certain subtext? And in the original movie, Chucky was a kind of symbol of consumerism run amok. And in Bride of Chucky, was kind of Chucky and Tiffany were kind of parodies of they embodied a parody of classic lovers, star-crossed lovers, and then in Seed of Chucky, the dysfunctional nuclear family. And in this one, we're using them in a slightly different way. The heroine, who's played by Fiona Dourif, Brad's daughter in real life, I should say. She plays a disabled young woman, a girl in a wheelchair, and you've seen the set downstairs, I assume, that, which is so fantastic that Craig Sandel's designed. But the cage-like elevator was always a very important image to me as a symbol of this character's prison that she feels she's trapped in. As is her wheelchair, is kind of a symbol of her predicament, and Chucky shows up to present her with a unique challenge. Because one of the things people are always saying is like, for people who aren't into Chucky, they'll say, why would anyone be scared of a 2-foot tall doll? And I always feel like, well, one of the reasons it is scary is because unlike other villains like Freddy or Jason or Dracula or whomever, Chucky hides in plain sight. You see those other villains and you run because they're so terrifying. Chucky can get up close to you without your knowledge that you're in danger. So that's why he's always been scary. Well, I mean, when we wanted him to be scary. But also, if you're in a wheelchair, you have a special vulnerability to the 2-foot tall doll. The first record I bought, I think, was, I so want to say it was a Stones or Beatles album, but it was actually a Partridge Family album. It was like that first Partridge Family album that had the kind of eggplant colored cover. And then remember the second one was the sort of psychedelic one that looked like the bus with almost like the Brady Bunch. Yeah, I was really into the Partridge Family when I was like 7 or whatever it was.